The stars shone coldly in the vast emptiness between the territories of the Valari and the Meraxi. This region of space had once been filled with the light of exploding ships and the death cries of countless beings. Now it was silent, empty, protected. The automated Sentinel beacon SV-297 drifted along its programmed path, its sensors scanning for any unauthorized entry into the neutral zone. For over 10,000 years, these machines had maintained the fragile peace between two of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. On one side lived the Valari. Their bodies were made of living crystal that caught and bent light into beautiful patterns. They built their cities and ships with the same care they took in growing their own bodies. The Valari believed in order above all else. On the other side floated the Meraxi. They existed as collectives of intelligent gas, changing color with their moods and thoughts. Where the Valari built with solid materials, the Meraxi shaped energy fields and plasma. They valued freedom and change. These differences had once seemed small. Then came misunderstandings, then anger, then hate, then war. The war between them had raged for centuries. Whole star systems had been destroyed. Trillions had died. The conflict grew so violent that it threatened to spread beyond their borders and engulf innocent species. That was when the Council of Elders stepped in. Made up of the galaxy's oldest and wisest races, the Council rarely interfered in the affairs of younger species. But this war had become too dangerous to ignore. "You will stop fighting," they had told the Valari and Meraxi leaders. "You will accept the boundaries we set. You will never cross into the neutral zone we create between your peoples. If you break these rules, the combined might of all Council races will destroy you both." Neither side wanted to agree. Both believed they could win the war if given enough time. But the Council's power was too great to challenge. Reluctantly, they signed the Quarantine Accord. The Sentinel beacons were placed. Border stations were built. The neutral zone became the most heavily monitored region of space in the known galaxy. For 10,000 years, small violations occurred, but never enough to restart the war. The peace held, even if hatred still simmered on both sides. Meanwhile, on a small blue planet orbiting an average yellow star, humans developed. They fought their own wars. They made their own peace. They learned to harness the atom, to fly among their neighboring planets, and eventually to reach nearby stars. By the time humanity built their first faster-than-light ship, the Valari-Meraxi Quarantine Accord had been in place for millennia. The Council of Elders had long since turned their attention to other matters, confident that their solution would last forever. Earth's expansion was slow but steady. Colony ships reached the closest star systems. Research outposts were built. The first aliens humans encountered were simple life forms, bacteria on Mars, fish-like creatures under the ice of Europa, floating plants in the clouds of Venus. First contact with intelligent alien life remained elusive. Earth united under a single government after the last war. Resources previously spent fighting each other were now directed toward exploration and defense against potential threats from space. The Earth Navy grew from a handful of experimental ships to a proper fleet with hundreds of vessels. Commander Olivia Martinez had joined the Navy because she wanted to see what was beyond the solar system. Now, as captain of the Eon's Horizon, she had traveled farther from Earth than all but a few humans before her. Her patrol route took her along the edge of explored space, looking for new worlds and possible dangers. She never expected to find herself and her crew in the middle of the galaxy's oldest conflict. She never expected that her actions would shatter a peace that had lasted 10,000 years. She never expected that humans, who had barely left their own star system, would soon be known across the galaxy. But that was exactly what was about to happen. Commander Olivia Martinez floated in the observation deck of the Eon's Horizon. The stars stretched out before her, countless pinpoints of light against the black. Her dark hair was tied back in a neat bun, and her uniform showed the small signs of wear that came from months in deep space. "Commander, we're picking up strange readings." The voice of Lieutenant Alan Foster came through her earpiece. Foster was their sensor expert, and he rarely called unless something was important. "I'll be right there," she said, pushing away from the window. She moved through the corridors with practiced ease, nodding to crew members as she passed. The bridge of the horizon was quiet when she entered. Foster sat at his station, his fingers moving across the screen as he tried to make sense of the data. "What have you found?" Martins asked, looking over his shoulder. "Energy signatures unlike anything I've seen before." Foster pointed to a cluster of readings on his screen. "They're about 3 light days from our position. Definitely not natural and not matching any human technology." Martinez felt her heart beat faster. After years of searching, could this be it? First contact with intelligent alien life. "Are they communicating?" she asked. "There are signals, but our computers can't make sense of them." Foster shook his head. "They're too complex, too different from our own." Martinez straightened up and looked around the bridge. "This is what we've been waiting for. Set a course, maximum safe speed, and alert Earth Command." As the horizon changed direction, Martinez prepared her crew. They had trained for this, but training was not the same as the real thing. Hours passed as they moved closer to the source of the signals. "Visual range in 30 seconds, called out the navigation officer. Martinez felt the tension on the bridge. "Put it on the main screen." What they saw shocked everyone into silence. 2 ships, clearly not built by human hands, faced each other in space. One looked like it was made of crystal, catching and reflecting light in beautiful patterns. The other seemed to be a collection of swirling gases held together by energy fields. But what caught Martinez's attention was that one ship was firing on the other. The crystal ship was damaged, pieces of it floating away into space. The gas ship moved aggressively, firing again and again. "They're in battle," whispered Foster. "We're witnessing an alien conflict." Martinez frowned. This was not in any first contact protocol. They were supposed to observe from a distance, report back, and wait for instructions. But the crystal ship was clearly losing the fight. "Open a channel," she ordered. "All frequencies." Her communications officer looked uncertain but followed the order. "This is Commander Olivia Martinez of the Earth Naval Ship Horizon. We are witnessing what appears to be an attack. We request that all hostile actions cease immediately while we attempt to establish communications." There was no response. The gas ship continued its attack. Martinez made a decision that would change the course of human history. "Weapons status." "Railguns charged, missiles ready," reported her weapons officer. "Fire a warning shot." Aim between the 2 ships. A streak of metal shot from the horizon, passing directly between the alien vessels. Both ships immediately stopped fighting. For a moment, nothing happened. Then both ships turned toward the horizon. "They've noticed us," said Foster quietly. "Multiple energy signatures. They're scanning us," called another officer. Martinez stood straight, her face calm despite her racing heart. "Keep our weapons ready, but do not fire unless I give the order." The crystal ship moved first, sending out a signal on a frequency the horizon could receive. "They're trying to communicate," said the communications officer in surprise. "Our computers are translating now." Words appeared on the screen, simple and direct. "Who are you? Why do you interfere?" Before Martinez could respond, the gas ship also sent a message. "This is not your concern. You violate ancient laws. Leave now." Martinez looked at the damaged crystal ship and then at the aggressive gas ship. She had to make a choice: retreat and let whatever was happening continue, or stay and risk involving Earth in an alien conflict they knew nothing about. She took a deep breath and gave her answer. "We will not leave while one ship attacks another," Martinez said firmly. "We represent Earth, and we offer assistance to those in need." The crystal ship sent another message. "We are Valari. The attackers are Meraxi. They violated the neutral zone to steal our research." The gas ship, the Meraxi, responded quickly. "The Valari lie. They crossed first. We enforce the accord that has kept peace for 10,000 years. Martinez looked at her crew. They all waited for her next move. She had to decide who was telling the truth. Lieutenant Foster, scan both ships. Look for weapons signatures and damage patterns. Foster worked quickly. The crystal ship, the Valari, fired first, but only after being approached by the Meraxi. The Valari weapons are defensive. The Meraxi weapons are much stronger. Martinez nodded. It appears the Valari were defending themselves. We will escort the Valari ship to safety. The Meraxi ship pulsed with angry red light. You have no authority here. The Council of Elders will hear of this. Leave now or face the consequences. We will not leave, Martinez said, but we invite both parties to talk peacefully. The Meraxi ship fired a warning shot of its own, energy crackling dangerously close to the horizon. They're threatening us, said Foster, his voice tight. Martinez didn't hesitate. Target their weapon systems. Fire. The Horizon's railguns launched metal projectiles at incredible speeds. They hit the Meraxi ship with perfect accuracy, disrupting its energy weapons. The Meraxi ship pulled back, surprised by the effectiveness of human weapons. Send a message to Earth Command. Martinez told her communications officer. We need backup, and we need someone who knows diplomacy better than I do. 3 days later, Admiral Peter Jones arrived on the horizon with a small fleet of Earth ships. By then, news of the human intervention had spread across subspace channels to all corners of the galaxy. The Valari had sent diplomats to thank the humans. The Meraxi had filed formal complaints with the Council of Elders. Jones was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had fought in Earth's last war and had helped broker the peace that united humanity. If anyone could handle this situation, it was him. You've stirred up quite a storm, Commander, Jones said as he and Martinez walked to the meeting room. The Council of Elders has called for a formal hearing. Representatives from both the Valari and Meraxi will be there. Did I make a mistake, sir? Martinez asked quietly. Jones stopped walking and turned to her. You followed your conscience and protected those who needed help. That's never a mistake. But actions have consequences, especially when dealing with species who have histories and conflicts we know nothing about. The meeting room was filled with beings who were clearly not human. The Valari representatives looked like walking gemstones, their crystal bodies catching the light. The Meraxi floated above their seats, their gas forms shifting between blue and green colors. But most impressive were the representatives from the Council of Elders. There were 5 of them, each from a different species. One looked like a tree with eyes. Another was a ball of pure light. The third had 6 arms and skin that changed color. The fourth was so tall it had to bend to fit in the room. The fifth was small and moved like water. This meeting will come to order, said the tree-like elder. We are here to discuss the human intervention in the quarantine accord between the Valari and Meraxi peoples. The humans had no right to interfere, said the Meraxi representative, its form turning red with anger. They know nothing of our history or our agreements. The humans saved our research vessel from destruction, countered the Valari diplomat. They showed courage when the Council showed nothing but indifference to Meraxi violations. Admiral Jones stepped forward. We come in peace, but we will not apologize for preventing the strong from attacking the weak. If that violates your accord, then perhaps your accord needs to be reconsidered. The elders looked at each other in surprise. No one had spoken to them this way in thousands of years. The smallest elder moved forward. You were never meant to interfere, human. Your species wasn't even factored into the accord. Perhaps that was your first mistake, Jones replied. The council chamber fell silent after Admiral Jones spoke. The elders were not used to being challenged. You speak boldly for a species so young, said the tree-like elder. Your people have barely left your own star system. You know nothing of galactic politics. We know right from wrong, Jones replied. We know that standing by while the strong bully the weak is wrong. That is something we learned from our own history. The ball of light elder moved closer. The Quarantine Accord has kept peace for 10,000 years. Your interference threatens that peace. Before Jones could respond, alarms sounded throughout the station. A young Valari rushed into the chamber. Elder Council, we have detected Meraxi ships gathering along the neutral zone border. Many ships, a fleet. The Meraxi diplomat's gas form turned deep red. This is a lie, a trick. The tree elder raised a branch-like arm. We will verify this claim. The elder closed its eyes, communicating with others of its kind who were monitoring the situation. After a moment, the elder's eyes opened. It is true. Meraxi war vessels have gathered in large numbers. This is a clear violation of the Accord. The Meraxi diplomat swirled angrily. The Accord was broken when humans interfered. We are simply protecting ourselves from further human aggression. Jones turned to Martinez. Contact Earth. Tell them to prepare the fleet. Martinez nodded and left the chamber. What are you doing? Asked the smallest elder. If the Meraxi are preparing for war, then Earth will be ready, Jones said. We will not stand by while they threaten peace. This is not your fight, said the tall elder, bending down to look Jones in the eye. You made it our fight when you failed to enforce your own accord, Jones replied. The Meraxi attacked a Valari science vessel. Where was the council then? The elders had no answer. 3 days later, reports came in from all human outposts. The Meraxi had launched attacks not against the Valari as expected, but against human ships near the neutral zone. 2 research vessels were destroyed. Dozens of humans were dead. Earth's response was immediate. The full war fleet was mobilized. Over 300 ships of various sizes and types. While not as advanced as either the Valari or Meraxi vessels, Earth's fleet was substantial and battle-ready. On the bridge of the ENS Defender, the largest ship in Earth's fleet, Admiral Jones reviewed the situation with his officers. The Meraxi have made their move, he said, pointing to a holographic map showing enemy positions. They believe that by striking first, they can scare us away from this sector. They don't know humans very well, said Captain Steve Rogers, the Defender's commander. No, they don't, Jones agreed. Our intelligence suggests the Meraxi have about 500 ships. They outnumber us, and their technology is more advanced. But we have surprise on our side. How so? Asked Lieutenant Grace Miller, the tactical officer. The Meraxi, like the Valari and the Council, see us as primitives. They expect us to fight like them, with energy weapons and predictable tactics. Jones smiled slightly. We won't do that. Meanwhile, in another part of the galaxy, a Valari diplomat approached Earth's embassy, the crystal being moved with purpose, carrying important information. The human diplomat, Samantha Cole, welcomed the Valari into her office. I bring a proposal from my government, the Valari said, its voice like chiming bells. The Valari High Command offers an alliance with Earth against the Meraxi threat. Cole raised an eyebrow. An alliance? Just days ago, your people barely acknowledged our existence. Circumstances have changed, the Valari replied. The Meraxi have violated the Accord in ways we have not seen in thousands of years. We believe they intend to restart the ancient war. With your help, we can stop them. And what would Earth gain from this alliance? Cole asked. Advanced technology, protection, and a place in galactic society that the Council has denied you. Cole nodded slowly. I will forward your proposal to Earth Command. But I must warn you, humans are not pawns to be used in your ancient conflict. If we become allies, we will be equal partners. The Valari's crystalline form glittered. We would expect nothing less from those who dared to challenge the Council of Elders. The Council of Elders called an emergency session. Representatives from Earth, the Valari, and the Meraxi were summoned to the ancient space station that had served as the Council's meeting place for millennia. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Harris stood beside Admiral Jones. Harris was younger than Jones, with keen eyes and a talent for spotting lies. He had been a negotiator during Earth's last war, helping to bring together countries that had fought each other for centuries. The Tree Elder spoke first. This conflict must end before it spreads. We propose to restore the Quarantine Accord with added provisions to address all concerns. What provisions? Jones asked. Earth must withdraw from this sector, said the tall elder. The Meraxi must pull back their fleet. The Valari must share their research with all parties. Harris leaned close to Jones and whispered, "They're trying to return to the status quo. Nothing will really change." Jones nodded slightly. "The Council's proposal is unacceptable," he said aloud. "Earth will not withdraw. The Meraxi attacked our ships without provocation. They must be held accountable." The Meraxi diplomats' gas form pulsed with anger. Humans are the provocateurs. They violated the neutral zone. They attacked our enforcement vessels. After you attacked the Valari, Martinez cut in. She had been invited to testify about the original incident. I saw it with my own eyes. The ball of light elder glowed brighter. Regardless of who started this specific incident, the solution is clear. If Earth will not withdraw voluntarily, we will enforce containment. Containment? Harris asked. A specialized barrier technology, explained the smallest elder. It would isolate Earth and its colonies from the rest of the galaxy until your species matures enough to join galactic society properly. Jones stood taller. That would be an act of war against Earth. While the Council debated, Harris slipped away to review data he had collected. For weeks, Earth intelligence operatives had been gathering information about the Quarantine Accord and its history. What they found was troubling. Harris returned just as the debate reached its peak. He stepped forward. "Elders, I request permission to present new evidence." The Tree Elder seemed annoyed, but nodded. "Proceed." Harris activated a holographic display. "These are records we've gathered from various sources across the galaxy. They show hundreds of small violations of the Accord by both the Valari and Meraxi over the past 10,000 years. Images flashed by, ships crossing borders, weapons being fired, planets being claimed. More importantly," Harris continued, "they show that the Council was aware of these violations and did nothing. The Accord has been failing for centuries, long before humans arrived." The Council chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Even the Valari and Meraxi diplomats seemed shocked. "How did you access these records?" demanded the tall elder. "They were sealed by Council order." "Humans are resourceful," Harris replied simply, "and apparently better at finding the truth than those who've been hiding it for millennia." The revelation caused division among the elders themselves. The youngest of them, the small elder who moved like water, separated from the others. "He speaks truth," the small elder said. "I have voiced concerns about the Accord's enforcement for centuries, but was always overruled. Perhaps it is time for a new approach." The Tree Elder's branches shook with anger. "This is Council business. Humans have no right to question our methods." "We have every right," Jones countered. "When your failures put our people at risk, we have the right to defend ourselves and to demand better from those who claim to lead the galaxy." As the Council argued among themselves, an alarm sounded once again. A Valari officer rushed into the chamber. "The Meraxi fleet has moved. They've attacked Europa Centauri, the human colony." Martinez gasped. "Europa Centauri has minimal defenses. There are thousands of civilians there." Jones turned to the Meraxi diplomat, his face hard with anger. "Is this your government's response to peace talks? Attacking innocent civilians?" The Meraxi diplomat swirled nervously. "I was not informed of this action." Jones didn't wait for more excuses. He activated his communicator. "This is Admiral Jones to all Earth fleet vessels. The Meraxi have attacked Europa Centauri. Deploy immediately. This is not a drill." He looked at the Council of Elders. "You had your chance for peace. Now you'll see how humans fight when our people are threatened." Europa Centauri was in flames. The Meraxi attack had been swift and devastating. Homes were destroyed. Research facilities were in ruins. Thousands of human colonists were dead or injured. Admiral Susan Clark of Earth's Third Fleet was the first to arrive at the scene. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, the EN's Intrepid, her face grim as she viewed the destruction on the screens. "Status report," she demanded. "Maraxi forces have pulled back to the edge of the system," reported her second-in-command. "They left behind 3 warships to finish the job." Clark's eyes narrowed. "Launch rescue shuttles to the surface. Get our people out of there. And target those Maraxi ships." The Intrepid's weapons officer nodded. Railguns charged, missiles locked. Fire. Earth's technology might have been considered primitive by galactic standards, but it was effective. The railguns launched metal projectiles at speeds approaching that of light. The Maraxi shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did little against solid objects moving so fast. The first warship was ripped apart before it could respond. The second and third Maraxi ships turned to face the Intrepid, their weapons powering up. But they had never faced human tactics before. "Deploy drones," Clark ordered. Dozens of small, unmanned craft burst from the Intrepid's launch bays. The Maraxi ships tried to target them, but the drones were too small and too fast. They swarmed around the alien vessels, attaching themselves to key points on the hulls. "Detonate," Clark said quietly. The drones exploded as one, tearing holes in the Maraxi ships. Internal explosions followed as systems failed catastrophically. Within minutes, both enemy vessels were reduced to drifting wreckage. Clark didn't waste time celebrating. "Continue rescue operations, and send word to Admiral Jones. The Maraxi will pay for this attack." Meanwhile, on the other side of the neutral zone, the Maraxi High Command was receiving disturbing news. Their attack on Europa Centauri had been successful, but the human response was unexpected. Not only had the Third Fleet destroyed the remaining ships with ease, but all across the border, Earth vessels were launching counterstrikes against Maraxi military installations. The Supreme Gas, leader of all Maraxi, swirled in agitation. How are they moving so quickly? How are they coordinating attacks across such distances? "The humans use technology differently than we do," explained a Maraxi scientist. "Their communications are primitive but effective. And their weapons." The scientist paused. "Their weapons are designed to kill." This was a concept foreign to most advanced races in the galaxy. Over thousands of years, warfare had become ritualized. Ships fired at each other's shields until one side gave up. Planets were threatened, but rarely attacked directly. Casualties were minimal. Humans, it seemed, still remembered how to fight wars where winning, not ceremony, was the goal. The Earth fleet moved with precision, born from centuries of military theory and practice. Admiral Jones coordinated from the EN's Defender, using tactics that confused and overwhelmed the Maraxi. Ships appeared where they weren't expected. Attacks came from multiple directions at once. Human vessels took damage but kept fighting long after Maraxi ships would have retreated. Earth's smaller fleets took up defensive positions around human-settled systems. The tactics they used had been developed through centuries of human conflict simulation. They had names like Thermopylae, Trafalgar, and Midway, battles from Earth's long history of warfare. The Council of Elders watched in growing horror as their carefully maintained balance of power crumbled. The Valari, seeing an opportunity to finally defeat their ancient enemy, provided Earth with intelligence about Maraxi weak points and force deployments. On the EN's horizon, Commander Martinez received new orders from Admiral Jones. Her ship was to join a special task force led by Captain Lisa Wright of the ENS Defiant. Their mission: disrupt Maraxi supply lines and communication networks. "This isn't what I wanted," Martinez told Foster as they prepared to depart. "I just wanted to help that Valari ship. I never meant to start a war." Foster nodded in understanding. "You did what was right. The Maraxi and the Council made their choices. Now we all have to live with the consequences." Martinez looked out at the stars, so peaceful from a distance. "Do you think there's still a chance for peace?" Yes, Foster said. But first we need to show the galaxy that humans aren't to be underestimated. Sometimes you have to fight for peace. Martinez took a deep breath and straightened her uniform. Then let's fight. For Earth. For peace. For a better galaxy than the one we found. The war took a dangerous turn when the Meraxi deployed their planet-killer weapons against the Valari homeworld. These ancient devices could tear apart a planet's crust, making it uninhabitable. They had not been used in 10,000 years. Millions of Valari fled their homeworld in crystal ships of all sizes. Many sought refuge in human space, where Earth's government welcomed them as allies. The attack united other races against the Meraxi. Several younger species who had long chafed under council restrictions now joined with Earth and the Valari. Captain Lisa Wright of the ENS Defiant gathered the Allied fleet at Nexus Point, a strategic junction where several space-time corridors met. It was here that they would make their stand against the main Meraxi force. Wright was a tactical genius. She had graduated top of her class at Earth's Naval Academy and had a reputation for unconventional thinking. Now, as she looked at the holographic display showing the positions of all ships, she knew conventional tactics would not be enough. The Meraxi outnumber us 3-1. She told the commanders assembled on the bridge. Their ships are faster and their weapons have longer range, but we have something they don't. What's that? Asked a Valari captain, his crystal form gleaming under the ship's lights. Wright smiled slightly. Unpredictability. And this. She pointed to a small device on the table. Earth scientists have been studying the space-time corridors. We found a way to create our own. The plan Wright developed was based on human guerrilla warfare tactics scaled up to cosmic proportions. Earth ships would use their new technology to create artificial wormholes, small, temporary tiers in space-time that would allow ships to jump from one point to another almost instantly. We won't try to match the Meraxi ship for ship, Wright explained. Instead, we'll hit them from multiple directions at once, then disappear before they can respond. The Allied captains were skeptical but agreed to follow Wright's plan. They had seen how effective human tactics could be. 2 days later, the Meraxi fleet arrived at Nexus Point. Their ships formed a perfect battle formation, arranged by size and function, just as they had done in wars for thousands of years. Wright watched from the Defiance bridge. They're so predictable, she said quietly. They fight by rules and tradition. And we don't, asked her second-in-command. We adapt, Wright replied. That's the human way. Begin Operation Thunderclap. Earth ships launched the first attack, targeting the command vessels at the center of the Meraxi formation. The Meraxi responded exactly as expected, sending their defensive ships to protect their commanders. That's when Wright sprung her trap. Activate jump devices, she ordered. Across the battlefield, human ships activated the new technology. Small wormholes opened in space, allowing Earth vessels to instantly jump behind the Meraxi lines. The Meraxi, who had never seen such technology, were caught completely by surprise. The battle raged for 7 days. The Meraxi adapted to human tactics, but Earth forces kept changing their approach. When the Meraxi expected jumps, humans used conventional drives. When the Meraxi spread out their ships, humans concentrated their fire on key targets. Both sides suffered heavy losses. 3 Earth ships were destroyed for every Meraxi vessel, but Earth had prepared for this. Their ships carried smaller crews, and escape pods saved many lives. The Meraxi, who had not fought a real war in thousands of years, had no such systems. On the 7th day, Wright deployed her final strategy. Using Earth's unique understanding of nuclear physics and gravitational manipulation, the Allied fleet created artificial singularities, tiny black holes that disrupted the Meraxi formations and disabled their largest weapons. By the end of the 7th day, the remnants of the once mighty Meraxi fleet retreated in disarray. The Battle of Nexus Point would be remembered as the turning point in the war. On the bridge of the Defiant, exhausted but victorious, Wright received a transmission from Admiral Jones. "Exceptional work, Captain," Jones said, his image flickering on the screen. The Meraxi have requested peace talks. Their supreme gas has agreed to meet with representatives from Earth and the Valari. Wright nodded tiredly. Let's hope they mean it this time, sir. Whether they do or not, Jones replied, the galaxy now knows that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. No one will dismiss us as primitives again. Wright looked out at the starfield, where debris from hundreds of destroyed ships drifted silently. At what cost, Admiral? So many lives lost on both sides. That's why we need to make this peace last, Jones said firmly. So all of this wasn't for nothing. Earth's lunar colony had never hosted so many different alien species before. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered in the large dome that had been built specifically for the peace conference. The transparent ceiling showed the stars above and Earth hanging like a blue jewel in the black sky. Admiral Peter Jones stood at the center of the human delegation. After months of fighting, the war had finally ended. The Meraxi had been defeated but not destroyed. The Valari had regained their territories, but had also suffered greatly. Now was the time to build something new from the ashes of conflict. We are gathered here to create a new framework for galactic cooperation, Jones began, his voice carrying through the dome. The old quarantine accord has failed. The Council of Elders system of non-interference has failed. We need something better. The Meraxi representative, a gas form now colored in peaceful blue tones, floated forward. The supreme gas acknowledges that our actions were wrong. We violated the neutral zone many times over the centuries. We attacked the humans without proper cause. For this, we offer our sincere apologies. The Valari diplomat, crystal form gleaming, stepped up next. We too must acknowledge our violations of the accord. We used the humans' intervention to settle old scores. This was wrong. Jones nodded in acknowledgement of both statements. Earth also bears responsibility. Commander Martinez acted on human instinct to protect those in danger, but we escalated the conflict beyond what was necessary. For the losses suffered by all sides, we are truly sorry. The small elder who had supported Earth during the council debates moved to the center of the room. The Council of Elders has failed in its duty to maintain peace. Some of us were too rigid, too committed to ancient ways. We forgot that the galaxy is always changing, always evolving. New species bring new ideas, new approaches. Jones presented the document that human diplomats had been working on for weeks. We proposed the formation of a new interstellar organization, the Galactic Cooperative. Unlike the Council, every species will have equal representation, regardless of age or technology level. He explained the key points: open borders with reasonable security, shared scientific research, mutual defense, and mediation processes for disputes. The old quarantine accord would be replaced with a comprehensive peace treaty. Some elder races objected, arguing that younger species lacked the wisdom to have equal standing. But many recognized that the old system had failed. The humans have shown us that age does not equal wisdom, said the Valari High Leader. Their technology may be less advanced, but their adaptability, their creativity, and their moral courage are lessons for us all. One by one, the representatives came forward to sign the new treaty. The Meraxi and Valari signed side by side, symbolizing the end of their ancient conflict. The Council Elders signed, though some did so reluctantly. Earth was the last to sign, with Jones placing his thumbprint on the document. As the ceremony concluded, Commander Olivia Martinez stood near the back of the Earth delegation. She had been promoted for her bravery, but still felt the weight of her actions. Her decision to help the Valari ship had changed the course of galactic history. Admiral Jones found her after the signing. "You're quiet, Commander." "Just thinking, sir," Martinez replied, "about how one small action can have such enormous consequences. When I fired that warning shot, I never imagined it would lead to all this." Jones looked out at the gathered representatives, now mingling peacefully. "That's the thing about interference, Martinez. Once you step in, you're responsible for what follows." "Do you think we were wrong to get involved?" she asked. Jones shook his head. No, the old system was failing. The Accord was being violated regularly. Something would have broken it eventually. At least this way, we helped shape what came after. Martinez nodded slowly. No one was meant to interfere, but perhaps we were meant to lead. Back on the horizon, now repaired after the battles, Lieutenant Foster prepared for their next mission. Earth ships would be traveling farther into the galaxy, making contact with new species, mapping unexplored regions. Humanity's role had expanded beyond anything they could have imagined. When Martinez returned to take command, Foster greeted her warmly. "Ready for our next adventure, Commander." Martinez looked at the starfield on the main screen. Where once she had seen only beauty, she now saw possibility, responsibility, and hope. "Yes," she said with a smile. "I think the galaxy is finally ready for us. And we're ready for it." The horizon's engines hummed to life, and Earth's newest ambassador to the stars set course for the unknown.